So you like Stoicism, do you? Good. That's very good. I'm very proud of you. I'm also proud of the fact if you like those old Herbies from the 60s. That Mexico's car. It had nothing to do with Stoicism. Maybe we should just go into the intro.
A better you starts today.
Here's the Stoicism thing. If it's not broken, just keep driving it. There you go. That was a nice tie-in. Now let's see if we could do that for the rest of the video, which is about... You guys ever heard of this? I bet you have, actually, because it's just popping up all over the internet, so I thought I may as well just get in on that sweet gravy train as per usual, which is... talking about how mad Seneca was. He was, man. You always see this with all of the good emperors, and I do count Nero as one of the emperors. I swear that there was a big hit job against him in history. It goes into one of my big conspiracies. You can go look at it at my Julius Caesar show on Friendly Geordies if you like, about how he has just been completely wronged by history. I think that is exactly what happened to Nero as well. But everybody always has good things to say about Seneca because, and I think it does just come down to his essay on the shortness of life. I remember reading that years ago and thinking, man, yeah, no, he's done it. That's self-help in a nutshell. He figured it out 2,000 years ago. No one else has... No one's improved on it. I really think that. I think that all that's really happened is just things have gone in and out of trend because a lot of the sentences you read now and you think, oh, shut up, just say Riz, okay? I'm sure he knew what that meant. I'm sure he knew how to get it. Yeah. But... the best summary, let me just close the door on this island. It's on the Bermuda Triangle, the island of success. That's why I'm closing the door. The Bermuda Triangle door was the gateway to going back to the Friendly Geordie studio, just in case anybody sees any glaring holes in my story. Yes, so Seneca, I think, summed up how everyone feels about their life, which is that it is short. And he said that, no, your life actually isn't that short. Like, think about it. You basically live as long as a tortoise. Some tortoises, anyway. Not those Galapagos cunts with their 300 years. But, you know, look, they're just in the reptile park eating lettuce the whole time, not doing much with it. They are doing exactly what Seneca says happens with your life, which is, and it's the same with him. Like, I'm calling it now, every Galapagos tortoise ever has wasted their life. That's what he's talking about. He's saying, you don't live for a short amount of time. It's just that you waste a lot of your time. That's why you just sit there and you think, where did it all go? So, yeah, he's just talking about iPhones yet again. But I think that the main takeaways that he gives about this of like, how do we not waste our time? Because as he makes one of his main key points, which is, and you need to write this down because I know that people always say this, but you never really think about it before. But like, this is the way that you should think about this phrase. You ready? Time is money. He says it in a better way, which is treat your time as a commodity. So when people think of time is money, they're kind of just thinking, yeah, my labor hour is worth X amount of money because I am a beekeeper. And I don't know why I sighed, but I was just like, beekeepers. What a ridiculous job. But yeah, your time is worth money. That's one way of thinking about it, but that's a stupid way of thinking about it. Checkmate. The better way of thinking about it is that time is money is referring to the fact that, look, man, like, there is nothing more valuable than your time, really. And yet we piss it all away. Why? Because there is this illusion from living through life. How messed up is this? There is an illusion through your life that you're just pissing it all away, that it's invaluable, that it's not finite. What's one of the main ways that we cause value? Well, how do you make diamonds valuable? You make them finite. You do not release a huge amount onto the market. You keep it small. You trickle it out in small amounts. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's what's happening to your life. That's what's happening to your life. Every fucking second of it. You are just getting this illusion that it's just going to be like this forever because that's your consciousness. Sorry, I'm going to stop. I'm making this into an ASR video for no reason. But you are going through your life thinking that this is just this endless flow of this product that I have, which is time. Time needs to be spent wisely. It's really weird going into tribes where because there's still like a bunch of just native tribes that just, have very little contact with the outside world. They have such a different concept of time, all of them, to the way that we've had it because we've just portioned it out in this way. And the reason that we did that, why did we put it into the Greenwich clock? We did that so that we could portion out time so that we could increase productivity. We're talking about on a societal level here, but you need to understand that on a micro level, that is exactly what you should be doing yourself. You should be thinking of yourself as a factory that just like, I'm producing this at the moment. Now I'm not producing anything. I'm just consuming, which is what you usually do when you move into wasting time. You are consuming things. You are not producing. When you are producing, you are moving forward. And ironically, it's really weird, but like the more that you produce, you'll never enjoy anything more than producing something regardless. But sitting there, taking in all of these consumable goods, it is making you feel worse. It's wasting your main asset in life, which is your time span. The thing is, when people always say, I don't have time, that is the illusion that is created by the fact that, let's all be honest here, I spend a lot of my life thinking about how I'm allocating my time. I still waste tons of it. We all do. So the best way to think about it, the best like cure-all to that, which is what he identified years ago, like the 60s or something, right? That's when Nero was in power. 2,000 years ago, we should put a time on it to just show how heavy this is. You got to think of it as a commodity. You have to think of it as that is the most valuable thing that you have. That's the first step to not wasting your time, because immediately, what happens then? You've put in value on it. What do you do with valuable things? You treat them well. You ever gotten a new car? How much better do you treat your new car than your old, like, this Nissan, yeah, I ran over a cat, nice. If you ran over a cat in your new car, you'd be like, oh no, not the death, just the death made my tire dirty. Number 2, don't invest your time preparing for life. Well, I don't agree with that because that's what this entire channel is. So we'll just move on to the next one. The next one is always, and this one is just, it is amazing because, look, this is something that a bunch of other Stoic philosophers that started off as slaves noticed about being in slavery. Now, think about this. I can't remember what these ones were, but I remember reading in this book ages ago that they're, like you hear about it all the time, like that Greek slave in ancient Rome that rose above the ranks and became some mogul. And obviously a lot of that was to do with connections, obviously. But another thing was, these were slaves. These are not free men. And yet they realized that most people, and this was the realization that they were having, most freed men are less free than the slaves because they don't value things in the same way you do when your freedom is taken away from you. You understand? Like they just take things for granted, and so as a result, they're living an unconscious life, just going through the motions. When you're a slave and you're aware of that, like first off, you're looking for opportunities of freedom. So when they're walking out in their day-to-day life and they see a butterfly, it's just like, oh no. There's like a weird psychology that comes to that when you're like owned by somebody. There's a way that you can twist that around in your head. But the thing is that they realized that even when they were slaves, they could still be living for themselves. So what's your excuse? This is not to say living a selfish life, but this is to say basically, like this is the point that they're identifying with, it, like really, really links in with Eastern philosophy, which is dharma. They're talking about dharma. They're talking about following what is natural to you. Because when you do follow what's natural to you, you end up doing what bees do, ironically, in the beekeeping scenario, which is, and that's their slave master. Yeah, it's not a bad analogy, actually. The bees are producing honey because they are following the dharma of being a bee. So they are completely, even though they are slaves to a queen and then to like a greater, it's actually a great metaphor. And then, the beekeeper's God, okay, and then this queen is the slave driver. But the thing is that they are producing something because they are living for themselves. When you start living for yourself, you stop trying to move out. What else is there? What else? Because you kind of just intuitively know what path you should be treading on. Every time you feel like that, like everybody has an example of that in their life, right? You have an example of when you lived a day that was sort of, you knew that you were doing good things with your time the whole time. Why did you know that you were doing good things with your time? Because it was in line with what is like consistent with your personality. And let's be honest, what was happening in that day? You were actually doing a lot of good things for other people, right? Everyone's had that experience. So that's what it's saying. You're living life for your own self. The self being like, they're talking about like a more spiritual thing here. They're talking about this sort of direction that you naturally should be going towards anyway. The next one is also, and I think that this one, like, there's nothing. This is one of the best Stoic practices that they do, which is that they sort of sit there and they contemplate what their little short-term gains for getting little pleasurable things. Ice cream. Ice cream. They sit there and they think. It's kind of like Tony Robbins' Dictionary pattern. They sit there and they think, all right, well, I'm enjoying this ice cream now, but what's the long-term effect of this? I'm going to be more sluggish in about a couple of hours after the sugar hit goes. I'm going to get fatter. It's going to give me less energy over the long term. It's also going to create an addiction where I want more ice cream. And so every time the ice cream truck comes past, I'll be doing that. So I'll be giving out money that I could be spending on other things to just this shitty little project. Over time, if you just keep doing that, that's going to turn into a habit. What do you know? You're going to be a fat cunt that's having something that is making your body worse, like making it sicker, making it less effective. They think about it in those terms, like they start contemplating the long-term effects of their short-term behaviors. Isn't that phenomenal? And if you think about it, you probably do something close to that, don't you? Don't you? I don't know. I'm just having a shot in the dark here, but I'm imagining that you do something where let's try heroin, for instance. What happens when you think of heroin? Some of you are sitting there just being like, the only thing to do is just the pain. But there's going to be a bunch of you out there that think, I don't have it because I think, man, that's going to fuck my life up. You're already practicing it. You can practice it on the things that you know aren't useful to your life, and they'll become less appealing. Because a huge part of all of these things is, like with all of these habits, isn't this trippy when you think about it? That like you just immediately pick them up because you've just immediately linked that this gives me immediate pressure. But when you start imagining the long-term effects of it, you start moving away. Isn't this phenomenal that this guy figured this out? Just some dude. No, like, neuro pattern. Now, when you just go through all of these graphs of like, this brain wave here is going like at this point. Let's just zoom in on that. Oh, that's what's happening. He's imagining a different future. He was figuring this out back then. I'll leave you with this one, right? Which is, and this is actually something that I think is just like, let's just cancel out that little inconvenient thing where he was saying don't prepare for the rest of your life, because then he says invest time in philosophies. Now, this is something that I think every time I ever say self-help, all the dickheads on Reddit that we frequently laugh at on Jordan Shanks, sorry, wrong one. That's why you should sign up to this. What do all those dickheads always say? They're all just like, it's just like pathetic that he's just going into all of these like quick fixes. When we've looked at this is all the stuff that self-help gurus talk about all the time. He is a self-help guru. They've just changed it to a much wankier word, which is philosophy. Like, it wasn't stupid back then, but I do think that, now when I think of a philosophy major student, I just think of, there you go, waste of space. And then I think of, like, a self-help guy, and then I think, like, yeah, he's got a cool watch. But that's me, obviously. That's conditioned from all of the books that I've read. But it's the same shit, honestly. It really is. But that's all I'm saying is, like, yes, it is Very important that you do this. I mean, honestly, every time you click on one of these videos, let's be real with one another for a second. Don't you feel like your life has improved slightly? Don't you feel a little bit better about your future? Don't you feel better about like how you could shape your future? And don't you feel better about where you are in your life and where you're going? This is what philosophy does as well. Like, he's just saying the same thing. He's just saying read self-help, and that's why you should sign up to Jordan Shanks so that you could get more of this shit pumped into you every day. Good vibes at a little minimum, but the more important thing is that I'm directing you to having a better life. You know, there are a bunch of people that have come up to me after my seminar that you can also sign up for. Links in the description as well. That's amazing. Everybody comes up and says it's amazing. Fact. Not one negative response. But then again, probably people that are negative about it would just be like, piece of shit, and walk out and not talk to them because they're cowards. And they didn't get the message of the video. We did a seminar about confidence. But it is phenomenal how many people come up to me that are, top tier patrons, by the way. And if you are a top tier patron, you get free tickets wherever you are in the country when I come to you, when I do my talks. You get free tickets to go. But it is amazing how many people come up to me and say, my entire life has changed. I'm talking people that were going to go to jail, and the judge said, you better sort yourself out quick. Or I'm talking about people that were dirt poor and are now millionaires. I'm talking about people that have started charities. There was this guy that came up. I wish I remembered his name, but isn't this phenomenal? He was an unemployed bum 6 years ago, from listening to this channel, by the way. An unemployed bum 6 years ago. Now, he runs a charity that is the aim. He runs this charity. The aim is to eliminate lead poisoning in the third world. That is something that still affects 80 million people today, just like it did with Seneca. He was tripping. That's why he was able to see how relevant this would be today, bros. But it's just the same human condition problems. It's just the problem of having this brain. This is what's really cool about these cunts. But he's aiming to eliminate something that would have affected more than the entire population of the Roman Empire today. 80 million people. I think the Roman Empire population at its peak was 50 million. 80 million people still from this. Guess how many countries he's eliminated that from already? This is in the span of 6 years. 17. And I take credit for all of them because he signed up to Jordan Shanks probably as a patron member. But the thing is that this is what self-help does. That's a huge impact. What do you think that guy feels about himself as opposed to when he was an unemployed nobody? I mean, I'm the same. I've changed fucking governments. You can't hurt my feelings anymore. It's the same with him. That guy is saving tens of millions of people's lives. What a noble cause. And it's again because he was doing basic principles in this, focusing on something that he can actually address that's huge anyway. It's not just the broad things like, climate change, AI, let's just constantly worry about that shit. No, he's finding something even remotely smaller than that, lead poisoning. And he's solving it. Huge impact. That's from this channel. That's why you should sign up, because you're going to be one of those bosses that not only becomes rich in the process of doing something that is valuable to society, but you're going to change society for the better. And I'm going to help you get there.